Alexis.
Oh, from too big to too small to just not right at all. Plastic surgery, although tempting, can be risky. The very popular BBL lets people, mostly women, remove fat from one place and inject it somewhere else, many times in their buttocks. But this reward comes with some life-threatening risks. One woman died from complications on the operating table at a Florida plastic surgery center less than 2 years ago. Now state lawmakers passed a new law that the governor signed earlier this month, cracking down on plastic surgery centers. Under House Bill 1561, offices will need to register with the health department and get checked to make sure they are up to date on new codes. And we're talking about the dangers of those surgeries with our next guest. As you know, we're entering swimsuit season and everyone is looking for the perfect swimsuit and beach bodies out there. So to do so, there are some people who like to turn to plastic surgery, but there can be some dangers that come along with that. Joining us now to talk about plastic surgery safety is plastic surgeon Dr. Alan Durkin. Dr. Durkin, thanks so much for being with us here on the Late News.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got to get into this. What are some of the popular trends you've been seeing right now in plastic surgery?
The biggest trend to hit is really the advent, distribution, and incredible success of the GLP-1 inhibitors. That's Ozempic and tirzepatide, also known as semaglutide and Wegovy. Those are the real drugs that have really allowed Americans all across the United States to lose weight that they thought was unlosable and really attain a new lifestyle. When that happens, especially when that happens quickly, you see a rapid descent of tissue and some loss of internal support.
Yes.
So people will come in commonly and say things just really fell really fast. And we're calling that for the face, Ozempic face, for example. So what we're seeing a lot of is opportunities to help patients really complete their journey. They're on a wellness journey, but as they get towards their goal, their aesthetics change. And when they recognize the change in the aesthetic is not exactly what they intended. That's really the role that we get to play.
Yeah. Now, as someone not in the medical profession who sees some of these trends maybe on social media out and about, the Brazilian butt lifts, everyone knows them as BBLs. They have been extremely popular over the past few years. But tell me, why have they become so dangerous at this point?
So it's not that the procedure is dangerous, but what we have is there is a certain small, very small cohort of surgeons that are avoiding really the safety protocols that are required to do that operation. In every operation, there are danger zones, there are safe zones. In Brazilian butt lifting, the danger zone is the muscle. You don't want to be injecting fat blindly into the gluteus maximus muscle because that muscle has a very specific cache of veins, and those veins directly can attach to your lung. If fat enters those veins and it travels to your lung, we call that a fat embolus. A fat embolus is an acute life-threatening event, and if it's not treated appropriately and very aggressively, it can have lethal consequence.
Yeah. So tell me, what are some steps that patients can take to make sure that the plastic surgery procedures they're receiving are safe?
Excellent question. So if you're seeing a board-certified plastic and reconstructive surgeon, that surgeon has done the absolute pinnacle of training. They have done everything possible to be the best in their craft, and to stay in that field, you have to do what's called maintenance of certification. So when you're seeing somebody who's ASPS, a member of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, or board certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgery, that's probably the best move you can make to guarantee your safety.
When it comes to the factors, let's face it, in this economy, everyone is looking at the bottom line. So I know that price point weighs into certain decisions. And I know I personally have covered some stories of people going overseas to find cheaper alternatives to the plastic surgery. What type of advice do you have for people considering where to go when it comes to price point? Because cheaper doesn't always mean better.
So cheap and medicine is a bad combination. It just is. The reality is every surgeon on earth has a plan A, and everyone's hoping that plan A works, but every patient should know you're actually paying for plan B, C, and D. Because if something does go 3 degrees off midline, 3 degrees south, 3 degrees north, doesn't matter. You have to have somebody that you trust enough that's going to right that ship and still keep you safe and make sure you get your right result. And when you're using price point as a differentiator, the quality and the opportunity to have a plan B, C, and D radically falls.
Wow.
The other thing too is if you just step back and consider it, there are certain costs that cannot be mitigated in surgery. And those are the costs relative to biomaterials, cleanliness, sterility, the medications used, and most importantly, anesthesia.
Listen, I know how passionate you are about this, and we could go on for days, but if anyone is interested in finding more information or learning more about you and your work, where can they find you online?
Yes, so we're OceanDrivePlasticSurgery.com, OceanDriveDermatology.com, and OceanDriveMedSpa.com.
Dr. Durkin, thank you so much for joining us here on the Late News.
Thank you. Appreciate your time today.
All right, coming up, a communion service stopped. How an argument ended with the priest allegedly